Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this episode of Spreadsheet Gaming. In this episode, we are going to make ourselves a Hireling Generator. In order to do that, we need to get the level progression for all the different classes into our spreadsheet, so that makes it easy for us to get all of that data into the places that we need it to be. We're also going to improve our character sheet just a little bit at the end of all this as well. So first things first, let's go ahead and fix this. This is our dungeon time tracker. Since this one isn't necessary anymore, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And in between episodes here, I did go ahead and add a bunch of monsters in here. I was playing a session with my daughter, and we had to add a bunch of monsters to get ready for that. So now that that's all finished though, let's go ahead and get to our data import sheet. And like I said, I want to go ahead and get the progression for all the classes. So let's grab the cleric one here first. Alright, and I've got number 6, so let's start with 2. Okay, this is his turn undead table. I'm not going to use that for this particular part. Okay, great. We have his level progression, saving throws, and the spells. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, let's copy this data. Let's get it onto its own sheet here. And we're going to have to do something about the spells here, because obviously fighters don't have spells, thieves don't have spells, so they're not going to need this particular section over here. And then also, clerics don't actually go up to 6th level spells. Magic users do. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to create kind of a little barrier here. So that when we add the levels and, saving throw stuff, that can just go in here as normal. And then we can go ahead and add the magic spell stuff over here afterwards as well. So I'm going to plug in 6 over here because, like I said, those magic users do get access to 6th level spells. And then let's go ahead and create our own column for class here. This is the cleric, so yikes. So let's go ahead and fill that information in. And we've got the stuff for the clerics. I'm going to go ahead and grab magic user and dwarf off camera here. And then we'll go ahead and do the fighter and the thief afterwards. I'll show you guys how we'll handle that. So, see you in just a minute. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I did go ahead and add the elf and magic user to our sheet here. Now what I want to go ahead and do is add the physical classes. But first, let's go ahead and make this a actual barrier. I'll go ahead and color it black. Okay, next step. Let's go into the SRD. Let's grab the fighter. I'm going to go to my data import sheet and plug that in. And we've got our table here, and obviously, like I said, we don't have the spells anymore. So let's go ahead and grab all this data. Control-Shift-V to plug it in. And then, remember, this is our fighter. So let's go ahead and... Oops. Let's go ahead and fill up his information there. And I do want to take care of all this empty space. I don't really want it there, so I'm just going to kind of follow the same formatting that the rest of this used. I'm just going to go ahead and fill these up with these dashes. Same with the fighter. Oops, that's a little bit too far. Same with the fighter there. That's how we go ahead and do the fighter. I'm going to go ahead and grab the rest of the classes here, and I'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. Alright, so we did go ahead and add the rest of the classes to our sheet here. The next step is I want to go ahead and turn this into a table. So let me go ahead and grab all that. Let's get this as well. Oof, it's not going to make it easy on me, is it? Alright, so I'm just going to have to highlight all of this area, hold Shift, and click down here. Actually, let's just start over. I'm going to click down here from the bottom, hold Shift, grab that. This is where I want my table to be. I'm going to hold Control, Alt, and T to turn this into a table. And we'll call this our level progression table. We'll just call it level progression. And And I'll go ahead and name this sheet the same thing, level progression. And now we want to go ahead and make ourselves a hireling generator. First things first, let's get all the useful information that we're going to need there. We're going to need the class, we're going to need the level, we're going to need the stats, we're going to need the saves. I think that's good for now. Okay, at least directly from this sheet. So coming back over here, I'm going to hit Control Shift and V because I don't want to copy the table itself. For this particular sheet, we're not going to end up filling it up to the side. We're going to fill it up. Well, we are going to fill it up sideways, but I actually want to switch the way this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our handy dandy formula. I'm going to type to col, basically to column. I'm going to drag it over this particular area. I've got it in the way that I want it now. I'm going to copy that, Control Shift and V, and then get rid of all this here because I don't need it anymore. We're good to go on that front. I think we'll leave this for now. Okay, level 1, just for starters. For classes, let's make a list here. We're gonna we're gonna pull it from our level progression table, and it is just going to be the classes. And even though we have it multiple times here, we have elf 10 times, magic user 14 times, so on and so forth, it's only going to pull it once. So let's go ahead and grab that. Coming back on over to our sheet, we can see here we can pick any of the classes. First things first, let's go ahead and let's pull the saving throws depending on the class. So I'm going to start with Cleric. I'm going to show you guys a slightly more complicated formula because we are checking against 3 criteria here, but that's okay. I'm going to start with our filter formula. What's the range we're filtering? We want to filter the level progression. And what specifically do we want? We want D because that's the column that we're on. We want the death saving throw. And the first condition is that our level progression has to be equal. Well, let's call it the class. The class needs to be equal to what we put up here. Also, it needs to equal the level. So I'm going to do level progression, level, and that has to equal B2, our level section there. We don't want it to move from the second row or the first row for that matter. So I'm going to go ahead and make an absolute reference to the 2 row. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing to the 1 row. So it does not move as we copy and paste this formula to the right. And based on this, it is checking the D column based on what class is equal to B1 and what level is equal to B2. And that gets us 11. And if I go check the level progression sheet and look at Cleric, 11 is in fact their level 1 D saving throw. So coming back on over here, let's do the same thing. Let's actually copy and paste all this down. And all we need to do is go up into the formula checker up here, and we'll call that W. We'll call the next one P. The next one, oops. The next one's going to be B. And last but not least, we're going to change that to S. Perfect. All right, we've got all of our saves now, so we won't have to be checking that anymore. And we're actually going to go ahead and copy this and paste it on over into our character sheet, but we'll do that in just a little bit. I want to get finished with this hireling tracker first. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and make a stat generator for these guys. I think it's kind of a pain in the butt to do it myself, so I'm going to go ahead and do it automatically. The other thing is that I don't want the classes to necessarily be garbage. I don't want to have to keep rolling over and over and over again until I find a stat block that I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weight some of these dice rolls in terms of stats depending on the class that we're playing. Now I'm not going to do that for dwarves and elves or halflings. They need multiple. If you guys want to do that, have at it. I'm going to show you exactly how that can be done, but I'm not going to do it myself. But we are going to do it for the clerics, magic users, fighters, and thieves. So how do we do that? First, because this is a stat, I want it to be a full number, so I'm just going to go ahead and do integer. Basically, when we finish this entire calculation, it's going to turn the number into an integer. In my case, it's going to round up. If you guys want it to round down, you can go ahead and do the round down formula. But like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and be nicer to my hirelings, and we'll do integer. Next step, we're going to fill an ifs formula here. We're going to say if, and because we're checking strength here, if B1, and just like in the last formula, we're going to give it that handy dandy $. If B1 is equal to fighter, I'm going to do max. We're going to do ran between 3 and 18, and we're going to check it again. So essentially what we're doing is we're giving the player advantage, or we're giving the hireling advantage. If you guys are familiar with 5th edition, we're giving the hireling advantage on their strength stat rolls in this situation. However, if we have a magic user, B1 equals magic user, I want to do the opposite. I want the minimum of, so in other words, disadvantage between two rolls of 3 and 18, and ran between 3 and 18. And then last but not least, oh, no, let's close that minimum formula. Last but not least, for any other class, because like I said, I'm not going to balance it for anybody else. If you're a thief, if you're a cleric, elf, dwarf, so on and so forth, instead what we're going to do is we're going to take the average between two rolls. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll do ran between, we'll start with average, and then we'll do ran between 3 and 18, and then the same thing, ran between 3 and 18. Let's close off that average, and that should be it. Ah, right, I forgot. So, because ifs needs to have two conditions moving forward, you do need to finish this condition by saying true, essentially. What you're saying is, if you can't find fighter, and you can't find magic user, then whatever's left is going to do this calculation. And that's why you guys can see up here, once I plugged in that true, it's giving me a value in here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. That complex formula, I can just go ahead and copy it, paste it down here. And what I need to do now, though, is I need to come in here and I need to change all these depending on the class. So for intelligence, we're going to do the opposite of what we just did. We're going to say if magic user is the class, then I want to max that roll. If magic user, if fighter, that's not fighter, that's fighter. If fighter is the class, then we're going to have a minimum roll. Otherwise, we are going to have an average roll. For wisdom, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to call this cleric. And let's just say the opposite of a cleric is not a magic user, but a thief. And then last but not least, oh, that's a rough roll. Last but not least, for dexterity, let's say if it is a thief, they get a max roll. And if it is a cleric, they get a minimum roll, and everybody else gets an average roll. Now, for Constitution and Charisma, nobody in particular needs that, at least as far as hirelings are concerned. I mean, yes, they would like health, but I think in this situation, it's fair to just go ahead and give them the average. So let me go ahead and take that formula right there, and we can just go ahead, there we go. Take that. And notice now, guys, see I have the average. It's always going to be a half multiple here. So let's wrap that up in an integer formula. And we are good to go. All right. So now that we have a stat generator that will weigh depending on the class that we selected, and we got it to input the information here, our next step is to just go ahead and copy this. Let's just say, oh, actually, we really just need this section right here. Let's copy that. Let's say, yeah, 5. Yeah, sure, that many times. And we can change these numbers, classes, so on and so forth as needed. We get all the stats that we need to look for. So we have the information that we need there. And if you guys need to re-roll, you know, feel free to do that. I'm actually just want to go ahead and set all these perfect. Okay. If you ever need to re-roll, just, you know, pick a different class, or even, yeah, pick a different class and then kind of go back. As you're finishing with this information, go ahead and copy this whole area here, and we'll start a new sheet for our hirelings. All right, so the next part we want to go ahead and copy is all of the saving throws. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those. And the nice thing about this is that it should just go ahead and, yeah, it did go ahead and copy and paste the formula there. So I don't actually have to make any changes on this particular sheet to keep the same information. So, for example, if I were to make this a level 3 cleric, or now let's make it a level 7 cleric, you can see the saves actually go down. So let's keep this level 1. We have our information here, and you know what? Just to make it a little prettier, we'll do the if error that we learned about in our last episode. Yeah, never mind. We don't want to do that because I wasn't smart enough to do that in the first place. So we're not actually going to worry about that. We'll go ahead and leave the errors to be their ugly selves. We can fill this out later if we want to. And if you guys really want to go ahead and change all that, feel free. I'm not going to do that. Next, what I do want to get is I want to see their XP threshold. I want to see their hit die. I want to see their THAC0. And I think we'll go ahead and add the spells as well. Why not? So let's get the threshold, the hit die, and the THAC0, as well as the spells. Copy all that. Come on over to our sheet here, because there's not really a purpose for us to get it on this sheet. This sheet, really all it does is it gives us the stats. So as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, we actually don't need these either. Let's go ahead and delete those, because realistically, all we just need this is for stat generation. And why don't we go ahead and name it that? We'll call this stat generation. Okay. Now over here on this sheet, and I wonder, did I lose all that? No, I didn't. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and get that data that I needed. Let's put it over here. And we're going to do that handy to call formula that I told you guys about. And actually, let's, yeah, copy, paste the values. One last thing is I will go ahead, I will go ahead and call this spells. That way we can keep track of this information as well. Just like this formula right here, let's continue it. Let's do the same thing, except now we're looking at XP. Because we're looking at the next threshold, and let's actually call it that, threshold. What I did here was I said, show us the level plus 1. So we were able to get the threshold from 1 to 2 is going to be 1500 there. And then over here, we're just going to copy this formula down. I just want the hit die. I want the THAC0. And then we're going to do the same thing, but for all the spells down here. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, now, why does the cleric not have any first level spells? Is that accurate? Oh, wow, the cleric doesn't get spells until level 2. Okay, so making sure that that works properly. Yep. our threshold goes up, our hit die goes up, and we get our first level spells. So we are good to go on this particular sheet. And let me go ahead and copy all those suckers. And we'll go ahead and just plug that in over here just to ensure it's working properly. Control Shift and V. And look at that. Looking pretty good as a generator. And guys, if you want to, I will probably need to do this for my game. But yeah, we'll have a name column here as well. Dave, Schmidt, Frank, Roger, Jose, Olaf, and Bridget. Now everybody's got a name. Now everybody has spells. They have stats. The only other thing we could go ahead and add is the hit die, and I think that's gonna have to be saved for another episode. We can just go ahead and make a simple die roller. I can just go ahead and make let's just say bonus content, everyone. 6, 8, 10, 12, 20, and 100. And what we'll do is ran between 1, comma, that. And we have ourselves a random die roll generator. And let me go ahead and just, actually, let's do this. Let's put it over here. Oh, I guess I copied it. That's okay, though. Oh, no. Okay. I'm so used to Control Shift Ving that I shouldn't have done that. Let's Control V over here. And we'll say die roll, or dice and roll. And cool thing about this, you can copy it, you can paste it, and anytime you want dice to be rolled, you can just go ahead and, take a look at the results here. That's a nice roll. It's a really nice roll for a bunch of these, except for the 8, but, whew, man. Alright, so last but not least, let's go ahead and call this our Hireling tracker. Hireling. No, we'll call it the roster. The Hireling roster. We've got our stat generation over here. And then I did mention the last thing we are going to go ahead and do is fix this area over here. And what I mean by that is we're going to take that filter formula. We're just going to have it fill in the areas over here, as well as the XP needed for next level, with 2 of the formulas that we've already used, except we have to change it around just a little bit, but that's okay. We'll say, alright, so we're going to copy and paste that formula that we already did, that filter formula, and all we got to do is we got to change a couple of the values here. We're going to get rid of S2 because what it needs to be is C2. And then we're going to do for level, let me just check what level is. It's going to be E2. So we'll do E and 2. And just as we did before, I'm going to copy this, paste it down. That should fix everything there. It looks like it. Perfect. We're good. And we're going to copy and paste this away. Except I see I did it backwards. I should have did, instead of it on the 2, we needed to do it on the row. So I got to come back in here and fix that. Yes. Oh, well, it didn't autofill, but I'm going to autofill it anyways. All right, now I got to come back over here, copy that, paste all those. And again, we're not looking for D on this one. We're looking for W. We are looking for P. We're going to change that to B. And last but not least, change it to S. Copy these, paste them down, and we are good to go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of Spreadsheet Gaming. We'll come back next time and we'll fix that as well, but I already feel like we're taking up just too much time here. So, like I said, everybody, I'll see you next time.